Hello and welcome. I'm Peggy. Thank you for letting us share a part of your day, and I hope you'll stay tuned. I have two people here that are going to bring some information, life-saving information for all of us. And Jack Logan is here. Now, Jack is the founder of Put Down the Guns Young People. And I've come to know Jack Logan and respect him. And what he's doing reaches out into this community and all over. And I admire him for what he's doing. And then Pastor Alvin Murray is here. And Calvin Murray is a chaplain for Put Down the Guns Young People, yes, right?
Correct.
I'm glad to have both of you.
Amen. Thank you.
And Jack, begin at the beginning. Let me hold this up. This is the gun lock. And I guess everybody who has a gun should have a gun lock, right?
That's exactly right.
And we're going to start with how this all came about.
Okay, Miss Denny, thank you for
Call
having
me
us.
Peggy, for
Thank you for having
sakes.
us here, and Mr. Murray and I, we're very grateful to be here. The organization began in 2010 officially after I was asked by a best friend of mine to reach out to help teenagers to stay away from gun violence because there was two teenagers in Spartanburg, in the city of Spartanburg, that had been charged and convicted of murder back in 2009, and it bothered him. And then Alex was killed in a car wreck on March 26th of 2009. From that day to November the 1st of 2010, each time I would hear of a teenager being charged with possession of a gun, it would trouble me, and I think about what he asked me to do, so I prayed about it until God chose me to go out and do the job, and he gave me some soldiers to fight the battle with me, and we've been at it ever since, doing grassroots campaign throughout the state and now throughout the country, trying to prevent gun violence among children and teenagers.
I know you go, I know recently, and you're always seems to be making a trip to Chicago.
Yes.
So it isn't just a local thing. This is expanded.
Yes.
And I keep saying to myself, why our government, our Constitution, gives us the right to defend ourselves. That's part of our Constitution. Our founding fathers put that there for us. But it's become more than a defense thing. It's become a violence in our communities. And it affects many people, including our young people, our teenagers. And that's where I find that's kind of where your heart is, isn't it?
Yes, just this past week, within the last week and a half, we've been going up to Charlotte, North Carolina, because of so many teens have either been shot, bodies been found, or they have participated, even including shooting their own grandmother. There was a 14-year-old kid up there within the last 3 or 4 days. Just
in Charlotte?
In High Point, North Carolina. He killed his grandmother. And then there's other teenagers who's been killed. One police officer's son was killed on his birthday. The kid just turned 14, Anthony Frazier, matter of fact, and he and his dad worked for the police department, there, and it's very difficult on his dad to serve the people, and knowing that someone has killed his son and no arrest has been made, and we try to prevent all of that. And getting back to the gun locks, Miss Denny, the gun locks, we try to prevent children and teenagers from touching guns accidental. And we feel that with a gun lock, let's say, for example, Mr. Murray had a teenage son at home and he's gone to work.
Yeah. And
that son decided to slip and take that gun to school. Well, if Mr. Murray or any other parent would have a gun lock on that gun, that child cannot put that gun in a book bag or in a car and sneak it out of the house. The same way I refer back to Deontay Mackey, the teenager who was playing with another friend, and the teenager say the kid stole the gun. Well, if that father of that child had had a gun lock, Officer Jacobs would be still living this day. And there's be many other people would be still living if parents would use precaution and lock guns up. I know parents would say, well, what if a burglar come in?
That's the other question I was going to say. By the time you get all this...
Well, a burglar just don't walk up and kick your door down, boom, boom, boom. you will hear some kind of know that someone is trying to enter. You would have time to get that gun lock off. It just take a key to turn, turn the key. The same way to get the
Yeah, it has that little key at the bottom.
Right, and because on yesterday we was down in the last 2 days we've been down in the city of Greenville to upscale subdivisions, very wealthy people, and these people was grateful to get gun locks. And then the most inspiring thing to me, we went to a door at 15 West Tallulah, and there was a mother came to the door, and her little son came, and asked her if she wanted a gun lock. She said, no, we have gun locks. She said, because of these two kids. And she took her son. She said, tell this man what you would do if you see a gun. He said, I'm going to run and get my mama or my daddy. He said, I'm not going to pick it up. And that's what we want to see all parents do. Teach gun safety to your children. Kids should be taught. So that way, if Mr. Murray or yourself is around a child and they know if they pick up that gun, they would understand that if they pull that trigger, that it may hurt y'all. But a child who have not been taught gun safety would not know. They may point the gun and it goes off. The same way that I personally feel about some teenagers who do have a gun. I don't think that they have no intention of taking a life. I think they take it as a toy just to sting someone because they have not been taught gun safety. It all goes back to gun safety. But at the same time, then you have those people out there who use guns with malice. But the most blessing thing to us right now in Greenville County, we have a new sheriff in town. And I told you earlier, Will Lewis.
Now, zero in on that.
Okay,
on our
Sheriff
new sheriff.
Lewis have came into town, and he has closed up a lot of illegal businesses. And when you close up illegal businesses, you reduce violence. And I commend him on that.
All right, what is his name? Say it out.
Sheriff Will Lewis of the Greenville County Sheriff's Department.
And he's our new sheriff.
He's our new sheriff. And I commend he and his men and women for doing their job.
So he's taking a stand
right
within the law.
He's taking a stand within the law. Now, I can't forget about my good friend over in Spartanburg, Chuck Wright, doing the Rolling Thunder, because just the other week, where they stopped buses and cars and they confiscated so much drugs and so many weapons, those weapons was headed somewhere to get in the wrong hands of the wrong people. And you've got to commend these people. And I wish all law enforcement across the nation would do what Sheriff Lewis is doing and Sheriff Chuck Wright is doing. We'd have a better place and a safer place. And these chief of polices in these small towns and in these cities, they need to follow these sheriffs. Law enforcement has got to make the first step, but at the same time, our chaplain here, Mr. Murray, would talk more. I just feel that children, like this little kid where we stopped at 15 West Tallulah yesterday, not only did that mother talk about gun safety, she talked about children need to be taught about Jesus Christ. And that's the basics. If people knew Jesus and that child raised up the right way, we'd have a much better place in America.
Amen.
And that's what needs to be done.
Yeah. We live in, I hate to say it, but we live in like a violent situation. Every time you turn on the news or pick up the paper, there's violence, and you can't get away from it.
Well, my position with the put down the guns now, young people, is as a chaplain, and my role is to keep us spiritually covered. Children who are born, all of us are born into sin, and the Bible says, train up a child in the way they should go. So if they depart, they know the way back. So the role of the adults is to indoctrinate the children and teach them right from wrong. I'm not a person that would advocate against taking away guns. Guns don't kill people. People who have the guns that make the wrong choices are the ones that kill people. Because I do feel like there are some folks that are inherently wrongdoers.
Of course.
And you need to protect yourself. But then there need to be safety with the guns, because Every now and then you might have a gun in an area where you may forget where it is for whatever reason.
That's right.
But if they have the safety gun locks on them, then that will reduce the fact that some people would lose their lives unnecessarily. This country does have a fascination with guns, and the way that you are taught, you're a product of your environment. So the way you are taught is the way that you will grow up, and if you were growing up being taught the proper way, then you'll be a productive citizen.
Yeah, but unfortunately, there are many children that don't have that environment.
That's correct.
To grow up in.
That's correct.
It isn't their fault, but
Yeah.
but what do you do about that? This
Well,
is, you know.
Well, all of us should treat each child as our own, because what happens with the children in the neighborhood can affect your child and what goes on in the neighborhood. So if we take a role in getting to know our neighbors, put our arm around certainly those children. Everybody wants to be loved. So if there's a child or someone growing up that don't have an arm placed around them, told those 3 words, I love you, on a consistent basis, then you start to feel negatively about yourself because you see those other people that are being displayed love. So consequently, you end up having a negative attitude and then start striking out, and then you're going down the wrong path.
We're going to go to a break, and we will, of course, have a phone number and keep it up on the screen. And we're going to find out more about put down the guns, young people, now. And heaven knows we need it. We'll be right back.